Hi guys, happy Thursday. I'm really impressed by what I've been seeing the last couple of days in terms of uploads and the conversations I've had on Zoom. One thing I wanted to say before getting started to the day is there are a few people who I haven't heard much from at all. It feels like it's been a bit quieter this week. I've seen less from some people. So I really do just encourage you as much as you can to upload just because it really helps me to gauge if the assignments are working for you, if they're too difficult, or what I can help with, or what needs changing. So to those of you who I haven't heard much from this week in comparison to last week, just please get in touch with me and let me know how you're getting on at least. But again, to those of you who are constantly keeping in contact, constantly uploading, making sure you're coming to all the Zooms, that's really handy. If you know that you have a Zoom coming up and there's something that you've come across that you didn't really understand, bring it to that Zoom and we'll find time to talk about it too. Because you might find that some of the things that you find hard are some things that other people might not get either. So it's a good place for us to talk about it. Or if you don't want to do that, then we can arrange to talk about some of these things just between the two of us. So today we're going to have a little look at the schedule as we usually do to make sure that we're on the right track. I'll share my screen with you. So I'm meeting today with group 3 and group 4. I'm meeting group 3 at 9:30 and group 4 at 10:30. We're going to be thinking about literacy, so bring everything that you've done so far for this week, and we're going to be talking through some of the things that you've done and some of the things that you have left to do. And you also have Zoom at 1 o'clock with Miss Rattery, and in the Zoom the Google folder, there's the art lesson plan for you to do to make sure that you're ready. And then for those of you who are not Zooming with me in your small groups, you're going to be carrying on, and you're going to be carrying on with your literacy packet. Today, we're going to be looking for clues in the introduction about when and where the story happens. So I found a story for you that has a good introduction, and you're going to be completing the sentence that's within your packet. A lot of the times, realistic fiction stories that are about different cultures will give you little clues in the introduction to help you figure out where this story is going to take place. And it helps us to paint a picture of something that we might not necessarily know a whole bunch about, especially if it's a culture that's very different to ours or a place that's very different to us. But they give us little clues to help us understand what goes on in that country, or some of the things that are characteristics of that place or those characters. So you're going to watch the video, and then you're going to go to your literacy folder, same place, and it's just a continuation of that document. And I have a little sentence starter for you to fill in to show that you can see what some of those clues have been. So I've seen some really good work on you're comparing different genres and you're comparing different books. Today, you're going to go to this section. We're looking for clues, and it's a way that we can better understand the setting. And there are sometimes clues that are given away to help us understand where the story could be taking place. You're going to complete this statement. So and you'll give a title of the book that I've given. In the introduction, I noticed that, and give me one or two things that you noticed from the introduction of that story. And that gives me a clue that this culture, and then you can explain what you think. If you want to, if you noticed, like an extension thing for you to do is to go back to one of the books that you've already listened to and see if you can find your own secondary piece of information from that book. So use the same starter that I've got here and the same prompts, and do it for a different book. And I'll be giving extra points for those of you who do two, not just this one. But that's only if you have time and if you've completed the other 3 tasks that we've got going. So that's what I'd like you to do today. It's another story. Take a second to enjoy it first, and then go back and specifically watch the introduction where the story is introduced, and then complete that sentence. The second thing that you're going to be doing is carrying on with your representation. So yesterday you would have got to slide 27 where you were looking at the equivalence between tenths and hundredths. Today we're going to be starting to talk about percentages. So percentages tie into all of this as well because it's thinking about something that is part of a whole. So what are percentages? Percent just means per 100, which means out of 100. This is the symbol that we use, and this is the fraction out of 100 version that we sometimes see. A number written as a percent is called a percentage, and this gives you a little example. 1/4 equals 25%. The way that you could also write that is 25 out of 100. 100% is your whole. So you're always working out of 100 being your whole. Here it shows you a percentage of this 100 square that is shaded. Now previously we would have written the decimal form or we would have written the fraction form out of 100. Today I'd like to see if you can write those two but also write the percent there. And it gives you the answer on the next page, and then you're going to do the next one. And you're going to think about what you notice. On this, I'd like you to jot down some of the things that you notice about this problem. Then I'd like you to do the do you understand. This is for me to check your understanding. There are not answers given here like the other ones. This is for me to see that you're on the right track. So it says, what are these decimals as a percentage? So for each of these 4 numbers, you're going to convert them into a percentage, and then you're going to convert them into a fraction and see if you can even make that fraction smaller. So all of your fractions will probably be out of 100, but you can see if you can make them even smaller than that. And then you're going to complete this table where you're basically showing the fractions as percents on this bar model. The first one's been done for you. These are some facts that you always need to remember. You can maybe make some cue cards, like flip cards, to test yourself on remembering the equivalence. It says, how could you remember these facts? There's also a little video attached in the notes for this slide, so you can look at that to help you. Fractions, decimals, and percent can be equivalent. These are ones that are equivalent. And it says, what do you notice? So please jot down what you notice. And I think we're stopping. Are we stopping at 49 today? I have to double check. Yeah, we're stopping there. So once you've got there to 37, you can do 38 and 39 beforehand anyway, but then the next section I want you to leave until the next day. So I want you to still carry on just as you've been doing before. Carry on going through those representation slides and stopping to solve any of the problems that are asked. I've seen a few people's work that they've done as they've been going, but some people I haven't. This is a really important stage because this is you taking time to understand the pieces before you start working on problems on your own. So it's really important not just to quickly skim through this and say, oh yeah, I looked through the slides, I'm done, because that will actually make it really difficult when it gets to the work part of this. With fractions and percent, there's lots of other ways that are around the house that you can practice finding them. So it can be with your pieces of fruit, it can be with some of your toys, it can be with pizza, it can be with different other food objects. And it's just a really good practice to see if you can convert some of those fractions that you see commonly, that you see in those slides, into percentages. Okay, the other thing that I'd like you to do is I'd like you to have a look, and I'll share my screen here for this. Have a look at your social studies assignment. So we did science last week, we're doing social studies this week. This is because these things tend to take a little bit of time, so I didn't want to bombard you with having to do both during 1 week. But today, what I'd like you to do in social studies is I'd like you to start planning your final task. So in the social studies folder, there is some reading that could have been started. I mean, I'm sure some of you have started before this at the start of the week. You can either read by yourself or read with your parents or have them read to you. And then after each section, there are a few questions that I'd like you to answer. If you answer these questions and have thought about it, that will make your final task really, really easy because you will have all the background information that you need. So it's a few pages of reading and a few questions that I'd like you to answer. You can do it right in the document typing. You don't have to write it down, but if you'd prefer to, you can. They're all about different governors that we've had that have made changes in Bermuda, starting from very, very early on. And your final task, I'll go back to it. You're going to pick out of these three things. So you just pick one. Today, you are just going to pick one once you've done your reading. And you're going to either write a persuasive letter addressed to Governor Hamilton, giving reasons supporting or opposing moving the capital city from St. George's to Pembroke. So you've just done a whole bunch of work about persuasive letters. So you should be able to consider what might be included in those based on your writing knowledge, and based on what you've read about Governor Hamilton, you'll be able to either be for or against when they moved the city from St. George's to Pembroke. Or you can do a dinner party role play, and you're pretending that Governor Butler and Governor Tucker were going to have a conversation about their decisions and their actions and what they would talk about. So they were two governors that were really close together and during the same period. So you're going to talk about some of the, you might be pretending to be one or other of them, and a parent or a sibling might be the other one, or you can just write down a script about what both of them might say to each other. And you're thinking about agreements and disagreements they might have and how they would justify their choices. So for all of this, you're thinking about why their choices had an impact. So you might think, about why they might have decided to do what they were doing at the time, how they were considering it would be helpful to Bermudians. Or your third option is to write as if none of the changes that Governor Reed made took place, and you're going to write about what your life would be like today. So you're pretending to be a child in 2021, but none of the changes that Governor Reed took place, what Bermuda might look like. So there are three chances for you to be fairly creative. And I've given you a thinking or a planning sheet for you to help you with just some main things that you want to include in all three of these. So in all three of these assignments, you should be mentioning the things that the governor did. You should be mentioning why it was important at the time. And you should be mentioning how it's impacted us today. So as long as you have those three main things written about and you understand and are explained, you'll be ready to do those tasks. But the first thing you're to do is to pick which one you'd like to do after you've done all your reading about all of them. And then you can plan from there, including these things. Okay, that is not going to be due until Monday, the 26th of April. So it's going to take you the reading time, which most of you have probably already started. But if you haven't, start today. The planning time, where you're making sure you've got all the things that you'll want to mention, and then you doing your final task. So whether it's the dinner party, whether it's writing as if nothing had changed, nothing had taken place after Governor Reed, or writing your persuasive letter. Whichever one you choose, you will have from whenever you finish reading and planning to complete on Monday to be handed in. I would like to share some of what you do with each other, with the class. So I would like you to have it done by Monday. You do have a whole day extra this week where there's no school. So you do have a 3-day weekend to get this done, and you do have the time you've got during this time. The only thing that your parents really need to help you with is the beginning stages, making you understand, making sure that you've answered those questions from the research properly, so that you really understand who you're talking about and what they did. And then once you've done that and they've made sure, I expect that you'd be able to do a little persuasive letter or write a present day diary entry or do a little role play by yourselves. I do expect that once you've done all the legwork, that's something you can do on your own and you don't need your parents with you step by step. But I am giving you until Monday to do, because it is quite a lot for you to do just in a couple of days. So I'd like you to definitely start thinking about that today and making sure you're ready and making sure you're choosing which one you fancy the most. All of that stuff is in the social studies folder, so you have it right there, and the planning can be done right, and the writing can be done on a Word document. It doesn't have to be handwritten. You can do it right there on your computer if you're able to. Okay, so that's all for you to do today. If you have any questions, let me know. If you need any help, let me know and we can arrange. And to those of you who are consistently making sure that you're Zooming, I'm really impressed with you and making sure that you're handing in work. Very well done. I don't think that anyone needs any extra work, because I think it's quite enough. But if you do find that you need some extra work or you'd like some extra work, please let me know, and I'll speak to you soon.